I am Jeff Biggs, host of the Cowboys Squad Show. I had a really funny joke about Stretch and Bill Belichick, but I can't do it.
I'm Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and if I become the all-time winningest podcast host, I would hope that you guys would put me in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Glenn Stretch Smith, I'll vote you in right now.
How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Squad up indeed. Final Thursday show, final show for us in the month of January. We will already be in February. How crazy is that? The draft's going to be here before we know it. Training camp, and we'll get to do it all over again. But in the meantime, thank you for being with us tonight for another edition of the Cowboys Squad Show. As always, I got to read this real quick. I forgot that. I've got to read this crossover Thursday by Prize Picks. It's presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's that easy. All right. Well, we may or may not have Iisha multiple shows Morrison on the show at some point. Hope we can get Iisha in, but if not, we'll get her again next week. We have the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Landon McCool. We've got Marcus on Mondays, along with the coach, former Cowboys coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Coming up, we got the very latest on the Cowboys as we try to keep up with the Jones. Did I really see some mock drafts are already up already? Really? We'll get into that, and we have a little more praise for CeeDee Lamb. But Landon, let's start with you, my man. New Cowboys DC Christian Parker dropping the hammer last week. Andre Curtis, David Overstreet, Dave Borgonzi gone. We got word today that the Cowboys have hired or on the verge of hiring Arizona's DB coach, Ryan Smith, to join Parker's staff. And they could possibly end up with Ravens D coordinator Zach Orr. And they're also talking to Colorado, Deion Sanders, Colorado defensive coordinator Robert Livingston. So all that to say, Landon, what have you heard, since we haven't been with you a few days, what have you heard over the last week about Christian Parker and what he wants to do and just overall, what are your impressions of him and the fit that he is?
Well, mostly all that we've heard is extremely positive things. I mean, just from everyone I've spoken to that has any ties to the Eagles organization, they rave about him. They felt like he was the kind of heir apparent to the job once Fangio decided to retire. The words that you keep hearing over and over again are detailed, brilliant, great communicator. So those are all the kind of personality traits that we should expect from a young guy who obviously has had a lot of success already in developing young players as the cornerback coach, as a defensive back coach. This is obviously a step up in a job title. He's going to be calling plays. He's going to be installing his system. And it sounds like in his interview with the Joneses, he made it clear. Yes, clearly I come from kind of a Fangio background where there's going to be a lot of deep safeties, going to be a lot of cover 4, going to be a lot of cover 6, cover 8. We could talk about all that stuff if anyone wants to get into those details. But I think the thing that really kind of helped sell them is that he said, or it has been reported, at least according to Nick Harris from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, that he had some tweaks and some things that set him apart from Fangio's defense that the Joneses felt like were really specifically going to be help the team be successful. So just a lot of kind of positive reviews. Of course, we're in the honeymoon phase, so that's what we're going to hear. But it does sound like I kind of usually gauge this sort of thing by how the smart people that were covering the team that the player or coach came from feel about the situation. And if they feel like it's a huge loss, then I feel like maybe that's our huge gain. And if we're judging it simply on that, then this feels like a huge home run, because I know that there's a lot of Eagles fans and a lot of people that cover the Eagles that feel like the Eagles lost a huge piece of their puzzle when Parker came over to the Cowboys.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. We'll take that for sure. Coach, anything new over the last few days that you've gathered?
Yeah, not since we talked about this. I mean, I think he's obviously a bright young guy. There's something to be said for that piece of the puzzle. There's also something to be said for a guy that understands how to teach technique, a guy that understands not only wants from a coordination standpoint, but how to put it all together. And again, you're going to have, in my mind, you need one or two experienced guys that can do that. I argue this with Marcus all the time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the young whiz kid. There's nothing wrong with some of those guys, but being able to teach guys and having the ability to teach guys correct technique and doing it so that it becomes second nature for them. I don't know that he can or he can't. I'm not saying that he can or he can't. What I am saying is the issue with his defense in my mind this year was you had so many guys playing with very poor technique. And so literally this thing needs to be stripped down. It needs to be, sent off, and they need to, sandblast it. And then you got to come back and you got to figure out what part of it needs to be powder coated and what part of it needs to be painted, and then get this to where it's a streamlined, good looking machine again. Because if you're realistic with yourself, when you look at what was put out there last year, and I don't want to hear about the players. We already know what that is. But I could get 10 soldiers to line up with the correct leverage and play correctly. And so that's the start of how you're going to do it. And then being able to coach the technique and understand how to get guys to play within that system, that's something that remains to be seen.
Absolutely. And I think that those are great points. And I think that's why you have the Joneses and Schottenheimer kind of going out and trying to get teachers. I mean, that was one of the first thing they talked about, right? Was we want coaches who are teachers, because I mean, it's hard to miss what Coach was talking about last year, that these guys clearly didn't know the kind of basics of these coverages. And look, clearly the coverages are going to change. But I think the point is that they need guys who can come in here and be really good communicators, really good teachers, and be able to, express their vision onto these young players. I really like, not to transition too much, but I really like the fact that it sounds like they're going to be hiring this Ryan Smith guy from the Cardinals. I think that's a good fit, because we're talking about moving, like I just said, to a more quarters-based Fangio type defense, and this guy comes from Arizona, where they play the most quarters with under Jonathan Gannon as the head coach, defensive coordinator type play caller. So I think, again, like we saw with the offensive side of things, when they hired Schottenheimer, the hires made sense. They talked about laying out a plan of what they wanted to do, and then they went out and made hires that followed the plan that they talked about at the beginning, which to me showed a level of organizational symmetry that we hadn't seen previous to. It felt like under McCarthy that it was a lot of hodgepodge at times, and there wasn't a clear connection between what was being said and then what was actually being done. I think, and maybe that was the case on the defensive side of things last year when they were just assembling that staff. But I think what we're seeing is this year the defense is getting a similar kind of makeover that Schottenheimer did with the offensive staff, where they are establishing what they're looking for, and then they're going out and finding the coaches that match what they're looking for. And I 100% agree with you, Coach. They still need more experience in this defensive coaching staff, because absolutely it's great to have a guy who's on the cutting edge of what's being called in defenses in the NFL, but you still also need to balance that out with experience and guys who have seen this and done this before. And I think that goes both ways. When you have an older coach too, you need younger guys who can kind of inject new ideas. There's a give and take there. So we just can't forget that now that we're on the other side of things, now that we've got a young coaching staff, that we still need that experience as well to kind of help balance things out, to kind of help being a tempering voice when you need it in troubled times, when you start losing and you need to know how to deal with making the corrections. You need a steady voice who's been there before to kind of tell you, hey, I think we're not that far off. We need to just make adjustments here and there. This is just like when I was on this such and such squad 15 years ago. This is a very similar situation. Those are valuable voices in the room, and you can't just have all young guys.
So let me ask you this. There's kind of the perception that it's actually Parker that's making these picks. Do you get that sense, or do you think it's Parker and Shoddy and the Jones and everybody else, McClay?
You get the sense that who's making what picks
for his staff, for the other.
Now, who do you think let those? Do you think he let those guys go?
Let which guys go, Coach?
Guys that were on the staff.
Oh, the previous staff.
Correct. Who do you think let those guys go?
Probably ran by him, right?
I think it was. Schottenheimer's who I think is more leading this kind of coaching staff more than anyone, and I think
correct.
The Jones
the new guy is not walking in and saying, "Okay, you're not here. Pack your office up. We're done with you." I mean, I tried to say it multiple times on this podcast, but maybe you were asleep. When they fired the defensive coordinator, they were told at that point, you guys need to go find yourselves another job. Okay. Now you can take that however you want to,
right?
But that's how this process went. And then you saw White Cotton go pursue a job and get a job in Tennessee. You've seen, so it isn't as if he's coming in and saying, boy, I'm going to, we're going to clean this thing out here. And then at the same time, you have a head coach who I'm sure is saying, I've got to allow this guy a little leeway here to bring some of his guys in. And then I'm going to mold this a little bit the way that maybe I think it needs to be molded from what he saw from a transition of what happened from training camp a year ago to how he went to, I don't know, the midpoint of the season where he felt like he needed to make a comment that, hey, I'm going to have to spend some more time, or I need to spend some more time with the defense, or whatever the scenario was.
Yeah.
At the end of the day here, this scenario is happened a month ago as far as guys not being here. And now it is starting to be where they're plugging and placing guys that, number one, that he's comfortable with, and number two, that the head coach, I'm sure, has either been listening to someone else too, or Jerry has been listening to someone else too. Because do you think it's just by happenstance that a defensive coordinator from Colorado is coming to the Cowboys? Or do you think that maybe, just for shits and giggles, Deion Sanders made a phone call, said, man, I got a really smart, bright, whatever, and he belongs in the NFL?
Well, I think the answer is both, Coach, because I think what it is that the reason I think that this is a Schottenheimer-driven process is, first of all, we know that Schottenheimer drove the process of getting Eberflus out of here, right? Like, he was very much wanting, and I think that, the Joneses were probably the last to kind of come on board with this, which I understand. But I think that it was, he wanted to kind of control the process a little bit more than he did, going in his first year. And again, understandable that the first year head coach didn't get absolute full control over this, especially being a first time head coach. Now that he's gained a little bit more trust with the front office, I think that they've taken a very similar approach in this process, at least in the hiring process, as they did last year with the offensive staff. They cast a wide net. They got a whole bunch of different types of candidates from different sources. And yes, probably, Coach, they were looking at college coaches in general. And I would not at all be shocked if really good friends of the Joneses, Deion Sanders, whispered into Jerry's ear, hey, you should interview this guy. And then he got put on a list. And then that was someone that they looked over and they liked, right? I think that that's absolutely probably how that went down. I also think that these other guys, the wide casting net, aren't necessarily coming from Parker's tree. Some of the candidates have a association with them, absolutely. But I think that this is a classic case of what Schottenheimer talked about when he was hired, about how he makes it a point to be constantly talking to other folks about coaches that he thinks that are on the rise. And I wonder if part of the reason that you bring a Jonathan Gannon in here is because you've heard good things about this Ryan Smith, and you can add, not the bigger part, but maybe a two birds with one stone situation. Hey, while I've got Jonathan Gannon in here, I've heard really positive things about Ryan Smith. Tell us what you think about the guy who's coaching your cornerbacks. And so, yeah, I think, the Jones.
Why wouldn't he take him to Green Bay then?
What? Why wouldn't who take what to Green Bay? Maybe
Why wouldn't Gannon take him to Green Bay?
Well, I don't know what Gannon's opinion on Ryan Smith is. Maybe he gave them a bad review and they still hired him. I just think that my point.
I mean, I'm more inclined to say that Christian Parker is probably relying on Vic Fangio to maybe tell him, "Hey, Coach, I know you're going to replace me with X, but look, I need to have, who do you know also that understands your system here, and maybe who is he leaning on?"
Yeah, I 100% think that what's happening is that Parker is feeding Schottenheimer a list of names. Schottenheimer's got a list of names as well, and I'm sure that Parker's names are coming from Fangio in some for a good portion, right? That's his mentor. Of course, that's going to happen. So, yeah, I think that, and I think all of this is good. I think that's the point. The point is that they're getting a bunch of names, and that's what this process should be. It should be a wide net, and then you narrow it down through interview, through cross-referencing opinions on folks by fit, right? But again, ultimately, if you arrive on, hey, we're going to start running a cover 6, cover 8, cover 4 heavy system. We're going out and getting a cornerback that's a coach who that's all he taught basically with Gannon. I think that again is one of those Schottenheimer type situations where they said A and then they did B, which made sense with A. And I think that's a lot more clarity, organizational clarity, than what we were getting pre-Schottenheimer.
All right. Good stuff. Well, it's good to hear the wheels are still rolling and there's still work to be done, and we will keep on that. When we come back, I want to run a different coaching note by both of you, and we got to get to these comments by Cowboys Executive VP Stephen Jones. We'll do that when we come back. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And really, who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? Well, that's where Rocket Money comes in. It's the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Now, one thing with Rocket Money, I mean, you'll be shocked to see about different things you might be paying for that you completely forgot about. That will save you money. It also, again, tracks all your subscriptions and lets you cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. So no more hunting down those customer service numbers trying to find out how you get rid of this. And the automatic transaction categorization really is a game changer. I mean, you can see exactly where your money is going each month. You can set budgets and goals and get personalized insights, and you can receive real-time alerts for transactions, upcoming bills, and even low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments all onto a single dashboard, so you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And we're going to talk to you about our friends at Game Time and what they're doing. But this happens when it takes the up and down cursor away, and I can't get to the other one. All right, well, I'll just tell you about Game Time, because there's nothing like being in an NBA arena. I mean, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Now, here's what you can do. If you love seeing the all-in price up front, that's one thing they have. No surprise fees at checkout. You can see the view from the seat before you buy the ticket, which makes that decision easy. And they have zone deals, right? You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. I mean, great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. gametime.co. Okay, welcome back. Cowboy Squad Show. Landon McCool and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith.
Before we turn the page on this thing, on the defensive coordinator, I mean, do you think this team's going to a 34 front?
I think that they're going to have more three down lineman principles stuff. Yeah, I think that I think it's going to be a lot more five-man surface stuff. So yes, I do think it will look more like a 3-4 than a 4-3.
What is a five-man surface? What is that?
Well, yeah, I think three down linemen and then two outside linebackers traditionally, but they may not play with two off-ball linebackers.
And how do you play cover 4 out of that look?
Well, you may not be playing cover 4. You may drop one of the linebackers.
That's what I got out of the first segment. That this is a guy. It's a big guy that plays quarters, a lot of weak roll, a lot of strong roll. I'm not trying to be a horse's ass. I'm just asking. I mean, here's where I'm at with this, and this is the final point I'm gonna make, is that what you better do, and this is what they didn't do the last time out. You better come in here and you better take a hard look at the personnel that you have. That's number one. And then you better figure out what scheme you're going to design around the personnel that you have. Because if you do it the other way, I don't give a damn if you hire Curly Lambeau. You're going to be up for some issues. So the only real point I'm making is I hope that Christian Parker, and I'm sure that they ask him this from an interview standpoint, because obviously he coached against them, albeit on the other side of the football, but understanding what is your personnel right now. And then if you are going to shift, to an odd front defense, what is the best way for us to maneuver through that, through free agency and through the draft? And that's all I'm getting at. The one thing I don't want to see is a guy that says, well, my system is this. And I tell you what, we're gonna run this until the damn world looks flat or the Russians start marching in here. To me, that's bass backwards.
I get that. And I don't think that the personnel is a mismatch for this. I mean, I think match quarters essentially is man coverage with rules. So it's there's no problem with the personnel that I think is in here right now with them playing that coverage. I think that they need to upgrade personnel in general, because I think, that any coverage is going to be problematic with some of the players that they have currently. So they need to kind of upgrade the depth of their room, and they need to improve certain positions, specifically I think safety. And they obviously
correct, but you have to prioritize that, right?
Sure,
that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, okay. Listen, look, I don't think that you're not moving to this defense in order to you still have to go get the personnel. Like I'm not suggesting that this is the end all be all. I think if anything, this is a way to get more out of the personnel that you have, right? Because there are options. It's not so cut and dry in this defense. I think that there are ways to make it so that the strength that you have in the back end can be utilized, right? Like, for instance, you've got a guy like Ravel who clearly is a press man corner. Then that's kind of what you drafted. That's what he did in college. That's what his body type is. If anything, zone defense is probably what he's not used to. But you can play these kind of match quarter concepts where this guy's playing a ton of man coverage, or everything is basically manned for the outside corner. So I think it just gives these kind of defenses actually have more flexibility, which actually allows them to fit it to the personnel better than the more kind of rigid defenses that we saw from Eberflus. And beyond the fact that wasn't even necessarily the rigidness of Eberflus's system wasn't the problem. They couldn't even get onto the field and run the coverage correctly, like you pointed out. So I think the key thing is just making sure that you upgrade the personnel and then figure out a way to get the most out of the personnel that you already have on the roster. I 100% agree with you.
All right. Well, I hope that's the case. I mean, we have seen in the NFL, we have seen teams turn around quickly. And I think we all agree that needs to happen here because of the window, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
One Cowboys coach, assistant O-line coach, Ramon Chinyoung, he's going to be joining Mike McCarthy in Pittsburgh. So he's gone from the offensive side. What do you think of that move? What do you think about the O-line and what that does? Again, he was the assistant O-line coach.
Yeah, but he was also a real steadying force that group, and he was consistent. He'd been through a couple situations, right, for a little while, and I liked just what I saw from him at practices in the field. He's vocal. It felt like he was the guy that the players would kind of pull aside when they had questions about how do they do this and how do they do that, while the offensive line coach was kind of operating the rest of the drills or whatever. And it just felt like he did a really good job in one-on-one situations. Now, this is obviously a step up. I don't know if he's going to be now designing run games with McCarthy, or if it's just essentially like an offensive line coach, but I just know that he did a really good job of being on a personal coach with players, and he really connected with folks. And I know that the players really, really liked him. So, more power to him. Glad to see him get the opportunity. And I think obviously Mike knows who he's getting. So good luck to him.
Yeah, I think you're going to see, there's always those young guys that they're kind of working with the young guys. They're trying to develop the young guys. A lot of what Leon Lett did when he was here coaching the defensive line is he would pull those young guys aside and work with them from a technique standpoint. And with today's college football and guys going from school to school to school, hey, there certainly is a need for the developmental guy. But I also think that you're probably going to Lundewells. I think the tight end coach, I could see him going to Pittsburgh. And I think you can't take him on a lateral move. but I could see him, because he had been with McCarthy. I mean, I could see him possibly being kind of a run game coordinator, that sort of thing. So, when you're good offensively and your players play well, guys poach guys off of your staff. So to me, that's just part of the process.
I wouldn't be shocked if he's the offensive coordinator, coach. I mean, because McCarthy's already said that he's calling plays, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if they called him up
didn't he bring over the O-line guy from Carolina? So you can't have, you see what I'm saying? You can't have a guy make a lateral. You can't have a guy.
Oh, did they already name an offensive coordinator?
It can be the assistant O-line guy. There's got to be an uptick in the hierarchy of how you move.
Okay.
All right, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think he interviewed. Didn't he interview somewhere else too? Did he maybe interview?
Yeah, he did. I think he had with the Jets. You're right, for the offensive coordinator position as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have not heard, right? We have not heard from Christian Parker himself yet. We're waiting on that. Look forward to that. But this quote from Will McClay about Parker, I thought was good. He said, number one, everybody he talked to, nobody said anything negative about him. When we got the chance to meet and talk to him, he's wise beyond his years, number one. But the way he puts things together, the way he talks about the defense, his awareness of the front and the back end, excited to work with him and the staff he's going to put together, because I think there's some exciting things that we can do. He's going to put us up front on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Pretty good, there. Good stuff.
Good review. So we'll see how it goes.
Right. So Landon, you and Marcus shared on the Daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, some of the bombs that Stephen Jones dropped this week. And he did some talking on a number of topics, talked about wanting to keep George Pickens long-term. He acknowledged that they've already spoken with Javonte Williams and his people, and he believes that they have the resources to fix the defense. What does that say to you, and do you believe it? Are you on board with it? About the defense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it means that we've got 2 first-round picks. We've got, whatever free agent money that they can cobble together by, flipping switches and contracts and creating space. They've got lots of resources to spend on the defense, simply because the resources have already been spent on it's already a sunk cost on the offense. Right? Like they've already spent on the offense. They've paid the quarterback. They've paid the wide receiver. They're going to be dealing with the Pickens situation one way or another, but that's going to get however dealt with. And I think, there's maybe 1 or 2 positions they kind of need to clean up or improve on, maybe add some depth. But the major, brunt of what their resources they have to spend, I would imagine, are going to be spent on the defense this year. And I think, they've got a lot of work to do. So that makes sense.
All right. Well, I think it's good though to hear that they already have to call the Williams, and it sounds like they definitely want Pickens back, and hopefully they'll be able to reach a deal. Like we already talked about that a lot. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to just kind of like confirm that what we hoped, right?
Yeah.
Like, we felt like that was a very easy situation, that obviously there was interest on both sides, but it's always good to hear, Jones just kind of confirmed that that's happening.
Yeah. Anything else he stand out to you guys when you were doing your show? Was there's something I thought those were the main 3 things that he hit on? I think that the most surprising thing, or not surprising thing, but as far as like questions that I had going into this year was, and we talked about it a little bit in the first section, was what are you going to do with Kenny Clark, right? Because Kenny Clark has got a really big number this year, right? And there's lots of options. It's not that you don't have choices here, but my question is, what choice were you going to choose? Were you
is there a plan to re-sign him? Because I think you could add a void year or something like that and give him some guaranteed money and spread out the hit a little bit so it's not as severe. I think it's going to be something like $20 million this next year, and you probably don't want to necessarily pay him that next year. So I mean, the other option was obviously to cut him or trade him away or whatever. But Steven mentioned, that when he was talking about the defense, he talked about wanting to build around the kind of building blocks that are already in place. And the first three guys that he mentioned were Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Osa Odigizua. So clearly in his mind, they plan on using all three of these defensive tackle bodies in, like Coach was mentioning, kind of more of a three-man front, likely with them playing, I still think it's like a half man, one gap sort of situation. We're not talking about going into a two gap situation. So it's still going to be guys trying to get upfield and that sort of thing. I think it's just, how do we find a way to get all three of these guys on the field at once, because they feel like that they're three talented players they want to utilize.
Yeah, are any of those, is Odigizua or Clark, or either one of those guys 330?
No, I mean, again,
right, so you see what I'm saying? That's the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, now you have two of those guys in Philadelphia, and this is where I'm going with this, is you have two 330 plus guys in Davis and Carter that are thick, that can play a double team off of the football. So I guess what I'm going is, and I keep saying this, the only thing that makes me hesitate about whatever Vic Fangio and however he plays his secondary is it must match the front. Okay, it has to flow together. Forever, there were a lot of different people who wanted to switch to a 34 defense, but there were very few people that knew how to match the back end with an odd front. And I'm going to say it was like Dick LeBeau and Marvin Lewis. I mean, literally, and there were a lot of guys that were wanting to go to an odd front, but they couldn't match them together. And that's why I'm hoping that Christian Parker doesn't just say, hey, we're an odd front team, because number one, you don't have that personnel, but number two, are you really able to marry all of that from a personnel standpoint? And it's going to be interesting to see. I'm just let me what I'm looking for.
Let me give you an example, right? One of the guys that they were thinking about hiring was the defensive line coach from the Denver Broncos, right? Denver Broncos play a three-man front for the most part. Who's the heaviest defensive lineman on the Denver Broncos?
I don't know that they have a nose. I don't know. I mean,
Malcolm Roach. Malcolm Roach, last time I checked, was their nose, and he's not 300 pounds. There's no way. And they play with two other guys who are probably 285, 290 pounds. So I think that if you're playing more of a one gap system, if you're doing a lot of mint tight stuff, they're playing two. If you got two eyes, yeah, you don't have a 330 pounder, but if you've got three guys that are 300 pounds between the guards, I mean, I think that there's ways to stop the run while doing that.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I don't know.
Well, hold that thought. We'll do that. We'll get into that when we come back. Want to keep this going. Great conversation with Landon and the coach. We'll do that coming up. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. And if you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, then you need to trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and also reach quality candidates faster. The sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that really makes a difference. And according to the Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Do it the right way with Indeed. All right, welcome back to the Cowboy Squad Show. That is Landon McCool and Coach's Chair. So let me ask you this, and we'll circle back. But it's day 3, I think, of the Senior Bowl. I know you and Marcus talked about that on an episode, I think, yesterday. But what is standing out to you? And is it too early to start looking who the Cowboys might take with those 2 picks?
Are you crazy? No, people are yelling about it on social media all day, every day. And that's why I thought when you said, is it too early for mock drafts? I mean, people have been shooting mock drafts in my mentions since, mid-November. So, I think it's not too early to talk about it. It's a lot of speculation at this point, but we're getting closer and closer, right? And I think the Senior Bowl is one of the first spots where we get some hard data points. We actually get some measurements. And we actually get to see some of these guys in practice. I think for me, there's a lot that's going on with the Senior Bowl, so it's hard to kind of condense it all down. But I'll say this: I do think that there are a lot of great options for the Cowboys with these picks. It just feels like this is a very deep draft for the defense. It seemingly there's more and more guys at the spots the Cowboys specifically need. I feel like I saw 2 more cornerbacks in the Senior Bowl that I really, really liked, that I'm going to need to go back and do some more digging on. There's tons of linebackers. Man, there's linebackers everywhere, it feels like. So if you need a linebacker, there's definitely that. And depending on kind of the body type that you're looking for an edge rusher, there are so many edge rushers, it's crazy. And honestly, even if no matter what type of body type you're looking for edge rushers, there's all types of edge rushers out there, all different flavors. Maybe not there are some super high end guys like Reuben Bain, and depending on how you feel about the Ohio State kid, like you've got a lot of options. So I think, and then we're not even mentioning the safeties and the options that you have there. Obviously, you don't want to overdraft certain positions like that, but there's talent at that position that make it worthy of the first round pick. So I think if you're looking for defense, this is a great draft to have it. And I think the only thing that I would complain about is there's not enough quarterbacks, it feels like, to push down some of that talent to where we need it at 12 and 20.
All right.
What are you saying? You don't want Pavia at 509 7/8?
Man, it's just listen, my mom went to Vanderbilt. So watching that whole situation is crazy. And it's just too bad that he is, shorter than almost every single player in the NFL playing quarterback. Cause he doesn't look like an NFL quarterback to me, Coach, unfortunately.
All right. Well, Stephen Jones has been in Mobile, correct? He's been checking everything out.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough job right now. You got to be out at Senior Bowl. There's obviously a lot of agents and folks that are talking to. You're also getting a lot of an opportunity to meet with the players. They've even added another 20-minute session for each player with each team to be able to get some more one-on-one time with the teams for these players.
So they can do that now. They get to do that, huh?
Yeah, I think it's not so popular with the coaches. It's more popular with the teams and the GMs and the scouts, right? Because they get the opportunity to be with them. But the coaches that are coaching don't like it because it's less, I think, 15 or 20 minutes less time that they get actually on the field coaching them. So I think they'll get over it. Everyone understands what this is here. This is an evaluation game. So yeah, I think it's tough having to do that and then also kind of reach back and deal in Dallas because they are also simultaneously doing and setting up interviews for these position coaches, specifically on the defensive side, like we've been talking about.
All right. Is there anybody, Landon, that you guys have highlighted or that might be for now, we'll give you till April, but for now that are kind of on the top of your wish list, if you will? Or that, or not even for the Cowboys.
There's tons of guys. I mean, I think Sonny Styles is a linebacker from Ohio State. If you're not aware of him, he's a fantastic player. I think that would be an incredible pick if he was able to manage to slip to 12, which it sounds like he could. Caleb Downs obviously is probably the best overall football player in this draft. He's a safety from Ohio State who also can play nickel, who has experience under Saban at Alabama, as well as being part of two of the greatest defenses in college football history. And I think there's lots of defensive ends, like we talked about David Bailey, who is a pass rusher. Ruben Bain. We all watched Ruben Bain terrorize Indiana throughout the final game and throughout the playoffs. He was a terror. There's lots of guys that kind of fit a little bit of what the Cowboys are looking for that I would be thrilled with. And I think, the Cowboys are kind of in a good spot, right? The two drafting spots for what they're looking for. There's cornerbacks like Colton Hood and his running mate McCoy, who's coming off of an ACL. There's lots and lots of these guys to study. It's going to be about finding out a little bit more about what the Cowboys are looking for at the position, but there's talent to draft that'll be available, what they're looking for at 12 and at 20.
Coach, anything on your radar?
I mean, I've looked at some of the practices, just trying to familiarize myself with a few of these guys, but there's so much that still needs to be done. I mean, I don't even like speculating, because the minute you end up, you get shot in the ass with one of these guys, then the medical report comes down, and it's, so instead of all that, you just kind of, in my mind, you just kind of take a look and then you're going to listen to see where and what they're going to do defensively. What are you going to do? Because I do think that you've heard Diggs say it before he got out of here. Hey, what is your identity on defense? What are you? And I would hope that if they are going to go to an odd front, that they would come out and address that. And then you start structuring what you want to do, who you want to draft, how guys slide up or slide down the board, depending on what your needs are. And I hate to say that, but I don't care what anybody says, that let's just say you have identical grades on, I don't know, who are you saying is the top safety, Landon, right now?
Caleb Downs.
Okay, and who's the top receiver?
I mean, lots of people have different opinions about. Let's say Malachi Lemon.
Okay, so if let's just say you got identical grades on those guys, okay, or even just a slight differentiate in those guys.
Sure.
Which guy are you going to put up there on the board from a Cowboy standpoint? Who are you going to put in front of the other? It's probably going to be the safety, right? And that's when you start reaching for guys when you do that, because it's your normal response to just say, well, they're the same grade. This guy looked at him and he's got a high first round grade on him, and this guy's got a high first round grade on him. Now just line them up how you have them, and then let the process work itself out. The last thing that I think the Cowboys need to do is reach for need, because they got a ton of needs on the defensive side, and I don't think it's something you have to do. You don't have to reach for need. You got need at every position.
That's right. That's the funny thing, is you've got demand and need, right? Like you've got a supply and demand in this draft, and hefty quantities of both. That's the good and the bad thing. I think with this situation is Cowboys have a lot of needs, and not even just at one position, but like maybe multiple of quantity at one position. And this draft has a lot of guys who are going to probably be available to them at the spots that they're picking. So it's it's kind of a weird thing, right? It's man, if I needed a quarterback, I would be furious with this draft. If I needed an offensive tackle, though, I think that class may even be a little bit better than we thought. I would still be pretty upset. But since I need a corner, since I need a pass rusher, since I need a linebacker, since I need maybe multiple of some of those spots, I'm feeling okay about where the Cowboys are. Thank goodness. We'll see how it plays out. We're in early days. Coach is right. We all get excited about these guys, but we're all peeking through keyholes because, the medicals are ultimately what kind of decides some of this stuff. And we don't find that out often until draft night. But I think it's exciting to see just the volume of players that are available at the positions that you need.
All right. When we come back for our final segment, I want to ask you about free agency and the defense. And we have a little update on CeeDee Lamb. We'll get that to you when we come back. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Now, here's the thing. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can actually meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's that easy. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, you just need to file by February 28th. Again, take your taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Before we get back to the defense, I want to give a little bit of props to CeeDee Lamb, added to the Pro Bowl roster as a replacement, but that's 5 years in a row for CeeDee, and that gives the Cowboys now 8 on the Pro Bowl roster, if my math is correct. Not that it means anything. It's really kind of stupid and the game is lame. But
man, does anything mean anything anymore? I'm still hung up on the Hall of Fame thing, because and look, Pro Bowls are even more of a farce, to be honest. Like, especially now, it's like everybody. Shedeur Sanders was a Pro Bowler. Everyone's a Pro Bowler nowadays. So that doesn't really mean anything anymore. But the Hall of Fame was still supposed to mean stuff, right? And and the fact that whole thing is going down is still so outrageous to me. And
I don't even want to. I'm serious. I mean, you're going to draw me off sides with that.
I think I've done it. I've done it.
I mean, it's just like that is seriously. And I have zero. I mean, I'm not a New England fan.
Oh, Coach,
I don't even like. I don't even like the Northeast. I don't like it. But if not voting. I mean, think about this.
Damn you for making me defend Bill Belichick. That's what it is. Damn you for making me defend him.
The Super Bowl trophy is called the Lombardi. He won 2 championships. Belichick won 6 as a head coach. What are we doing?
Taking stupid pills, man. I don't know. I'm so sick of grievances and politics playing it, getting in the way of just simple decisions. Just pick the most deserving candidate. You have a list of them. One of them is named Belichick, guys. So maybe pick that guy. And honestly, I think, Coach, and I'm sorry, we should even. Not to get into this on a Cowboys podcast, but just it's so outrageous to me. The people that voted for Kraft instead of voting for Belichick, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Do you understand how football is assembled and how like it all comes together in front of your eyes when you're watching it on your TV. Like
and that's not. I don't think that's take. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Robert Kraft. He's a hell of an owner. He's a great owner. I don't want to take anything away from Kenny Anderson or Roger Craig or L.C. Greenwood. I don't want to take anything away from any of those guys. But I mean, Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach and was an assistant coach on 2 other Super Bowl winning teams,
in which he was incredible. Yes, and here's the last thing I'll say. I know I'm yelling at voters, and I think that it's fair to yell at voters, but they are also victims of this because the problem is not the people, it's the system. Right? The system is forcing people to play politics in order to rally for their guys to get them done. It should be as simple. There shouldn't be a limit. There shouldn't be a number. It should be as simple as here is the list of eligible people to get into the Hall of Fame. Do you feel they are worthy? And then they vote, and then we are done. You make it public and hold people accountable if you feel like they're not being good voters. I'm tired of people's feelings being a huge part of this, like, you know, and feeling like you have to form alliances. Like, this is not Survivor, guys. This is voting for the Hall of Fame. Let's just get some sanity injected into this process, please. End of rant. Apologies.
There you go. That's good. That was good stuff. I spent most of my adult life in locker rooms interviewing and talking to players, and I've always said that the only people with bigger egos than the players are the people that cover them. And Howard Balzer is I used to do a national radio show with him. He's part of the Hall of Fame group. I'm going to try to get him on at some point when things die down a little bit, but I know I'm sure he's not happy about this as well.
I'm serious. I mean, if that guy is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, then I mean, seriously, stop the madness.
This doesn't even compare, honestly, but imagine if Cowboys fans could for a minute, imagine if Tom Landry didn't get voted in. Like, we would be flipping cars over in the street. Like, we would be marching on Canton, on Ohio. It would be absolute chaos. I cannot believe you guys are making me sympathize for the New England Patriots, but I am. All right. So damn you for doing that.
Like, I feel the same way. I mean, I could give a flying flip about Martha's Vineyard and the whole, and let me tell you, I've been up there. It's a beautiful place and all that. But I mean, it's just like nothing appeals to me about that, but and Bill Belichick, I mean, like him, dislike him. I mean, I've been around him a handful of times. He's an all business guy. Whether you like his hoodie or you don't like the way he got to the podium or 24-year-old girlfriend, whatever the scenario, that has nothing to do with what he accomplished. And I can't believe that I'm serious. I can't even believe that I'm wasting 5 minutes of my life talking about this. Is nuts.
But it's also required. That's how much of a crisis this is. How much of a travesty this is. like it's an injustice, and we have to at least speak about it, or
I mean, I agree. I mean, as a kid, I can remember, growing up, and everything. The NFL was everything, and then the time when I got to walk into the Hall of Fame, and it was just, it's almost like you could hear the ghost of the past. I mean, I remember the first time I walked into Lambeau Field, I was that way. I mean, you could hear Lombardi going, grab, grab, grab. Everybody's grabbing. You could, so I respect all of that. And I also know how hard it is to stay in the game. And it is such an accomplishment with what he did and how he did it. I don't want to hear about Spygate. I don't want to hear that crap. Everybody's stealing signals forever, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just nuts. I'm serious. It's crazy.
That's also a terrible argument too, right? You think he's a dirty cheater? Oh, let's just wait a year and then vote him in. What is wrong with you? That doesn't make any sense either.
Or he took 1 pound, or they took a pound out of the football because they were going to throw. I mean, you think guys don't doctor the footballs all the time?
You think Tom Brady's going to get delayed into the Hall of Fame?
Gosh,
I don't.
Shouldn't now after this. I would think not after this, but as I've said for the last several years, nothing surprises us.
They ought to make this right. They ought to go back. Seriously, they ought to reconvene and revote tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
It's a good idea.
It's that egregious. It is that egregious.
Yeah, it's taken away all their credibility for sure. All right, guys. Well, we'll leave the defense. We got plenty of time to talk about the defense, but I have been thinking about it though. About can they turn it around and really make it a formidable unit? We've seen teams turn around in the NFL. The Super Bowl, I think, is a great parity bowl matchup for that, proving just that. So we'll see, but we'll talk about it next week. Landon, what do you guys got coming up tomorrow on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast?
Lots of Senior Bowl coverage. We're going to continue to talk about day 3 of practices. There's obviously going to be some news about hiring at some point, so we'll continue to talk about the speculation about the folks that are being interviewed, that are being brought in. There's lots to talk about, and we're going to cover it all.
I'm going to go through withdrawals. No football this weekend other than the Senior Bowl. That's it. So you got to check that out for sure. All right, check out Landon and Marcus Mosher on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. Coach, enjoy your TV work and radio show. We'll do it again next Monday for sure. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks everybody for jumping in. Thanks for all your comments and love and support. Peace.